Hey guys, in the last video we published our project into GitHub. So now we have a backup of our project on cloud. If something goes wrong with the project, we can restore it. If we want to share it with somebody else, we can easily share it. If others wants to collaborate on our project, they can now collaborate with us. So now that was like one major problem addressed in the last video. We still have a problem in the sense, if you look at this project, there's not much going on in this project, right? We just have a directory with our end-to-end test workflow file in it. But if somebody is looking at this repository, they don't know what this project is all about, right? Now there is a file that is specifically meant to address this problem, and that is called a readme file. And in this particular video, that's the topic that we're going to cover. So the goal for today's sessions are twofold. One, to tell about what readme files are all about, and second, to show some important commands on how to work with readme files. So basically, once we have this information, then I'm trying not to make this a very lengthy video. So in the next video, I'm going to share with you our project goals, test goals, framework goals, and like some of the important files, some of the working principles, so that you know what this project is all about. So let's do it step by step. So let's first address goal number one, which is to tell something about the readme files. So the way you add a readme file is very simple. Control plus, I think that zooms in. Yeah. So if you look, maybe control minus, zoomed in too much. So the way you add a readme file is just go to the root of the project, right? Go to the root of the project and just add a file called readme.markdown file. And if you see, the convention is to write this file in all uppercase. If you remember, in general, we write all our file names in kebab case, but because I also mentioned that if you have a conflict between the convention and the standard always wins. So in this case, writing readme like in all caps is the standard, so we are going to follow the standard and not the convention to write the files in kebab case, right? So that's how you write a readme file. Now, why do we write it in all caps? There's an article that gives you some info about it. So for example, if you go to Wikipedia tells that typically in Unix, the files are written in all lowercase. And when you write a project in all uppercase, and if you're trying to do, let's say ls, so if I go to, let's say this project, and if I do ls, if there are a lot of files available here, it will show that particular file, like it will highlight that file. Why does it not show it? Because probably it created inside one of these repositories. So if I put it to the root, let's run the command again, and as you can see, because it's written in all caps, it's the first file. And because people are always interested to see what a project is all about, as the first thing, writing it in all caps is useful. So that was a bit of a background. If we go back to our notes, let's look at some of the commands. So the way you can add, for example, a heading in a readme file is very simple. You can write a hash, and if you, for example, write, this is my project, right? So this is how you add a heading. The way you add a subheading is, for example, if you say test goals, right? So this becomes a subheading. If you want to add another subheading, like even smaller, you can say it tool set, and you can see the size of each of these headings becomes smaller and smaller. If you want to write a comment, it's very easy. You can say, for example, fail fast, fail early, right? And now this shows up as a comment. If you want, you can make this comment even deeper by just adding one more arrow, right? So that's another way in which you can add a comment. If you want to write some to-do lists, like I like to add my objectives as a to-do list, right? It's very easy. The way you can do it is you write a dash, you give a bracket, give a space in between, and then you can say to write, for example, to write atomic tests, to run tests in parallel, for example. Now if you look in VS Code, it does not show it very nicely, but for example, this is where if I open IntelliJ, let's open Readme File. Now this is like half preview mode. You can see some of the things are shown more nicely if you look in IntelliJ compared to VS Code. Like this is here you can see this nested comment. Here you can see, for example, this checkbox that this is done, this is not done. So these are some of the things that you can do. Apart from this, let's say if you want to add some references like URLs, right? Maybe you can say you want to write and you want to say for example, you can give the URL to this readme file, right? So if somebody wants to read about this, you can give this URL and you can say readme wiki, right? And now if you click on this, it takes you to that particular URL. So it's a pretty handy feature which I often use. If we go back, sometimes what you also want to do is you want to probably put some images in your readme file. So for example, if you want to say end-to-end test automation process, and if you want to put an image, the way you do it is you put a not sign, you again give a bracket, you can give a name if you like, it's not mandatory, but for example end-to-end test process, and again you give brackets like you give it for URL, you give a dot root, and then you say it's inside images and it's called, let's say, end-to-end test workflow file. And now you can see now the image has come inside this file. So these are just some of the examples in which you can write your readme files. There's a lot more that you can actually do. If I like do a quick search how to create good readme files, you see there are many hyperlinks available. So for example, this one or this one or this one. So I will add some of them as a part of this video, but you know it's not limited to this. If you scroll, you can actually find a lot of stuff that you can use to write good readme files. So I think for this video it's sufficient to talk about readme files, and I think in the next video what I want to do is I really want to update these sections about what this project is about, what our test goals are, what our working principles are, maybe add this image, add some objectives, add some references, so that from next video onwards you should be able to know what are we trying to achieve in this series of videos. So I hope you learned something new or something useful about readme files in this video, and I look forward to see you in another video. See you. Cheers. Bye bye.